The human surgeon sliced through the Tholian engineer's mangled exoskeleton, extracting shrapnel that would leave most galactic physicians puking their guts out. But for Dr. Bobby Robertson, gruesome death-world trauma was just another Tuesday. "Retractor," Bobby grunted, hand outstretched. The gleaming surgical tool slapped into his palm as his assistant anticipated his needs. Peeling back the Tholian's shattered thoracic plates, Bobby dove into the gory, pulsing mess. His hands moved in a blur, clamping spurting arteries and stitching perforated organs with practiced ease. In the observation area, Tholian diplomats Janus and Zor-El watched in slack-jawed awe. They'd come aboard this human space station orbiting the notorious Death World Earth for routine negotiations. But then a malfunctioning cargo loader nearly bisected one of their engineers. By the time they'd rushed him to the medbay, he was nothing but scrap meat in a shredded exoskeleton. Yet miraculously, just 3 hours later, the human doctor was closing up the engineer's chitinous plates, leaving nothing but faint scars where gaping wounds had been. As Bobby stripped off his gloves and bloody gown, Janus shook his head in disbelief. "Dr. Robertson, I've never seen such swift and skilled surgery," the diplomat said. "What advanced medical technology allows you to repair injuries that would be fatal for our kind?" Bobby laughed. "Advanced? Shit, this is trauma surgery 101 for human docs. When you evolve on a planet that's constantly trying to kill you, you get damn good at putting people back together." The Tholians exchanged bewildered looks. They'd always considered the humans a primitive, savage species, barely tolerated in the galactic community. But if this was their baseline medical competence, what other surprises did they hold? Oblivious to their shock, Bobby clapped a meaty hand on Janus's shoulder. "I don't know about you fellas, but I'm starving. Care to join me in the mess for some grub? I'll give you the whole rundown on Death World medicine." As they followed the boisterous human into the corridor, Janus and Zor-El couldn't help but marvel at the sheer vitality of the station's crew. Strapping muscles, booming voices, vigorous health, a far cry from the frail, sickly Tholians wilting on their homeworld. Perhaps they'd badly underestimated these DeathWorlders, and if human doctors could work such wonders, the possibilities for an alliance were staggering. Their own people were dying younger every generation, ravaged by strange diseases. Without help, their civilization might crumble within decades. But the humans might just be their salvation, if they could swallow their pride and ask for aid. Janus glanced at his aide, seeing the same calculation in Zor-El's eyes. One thing was certain, the paradigm had shifted. The DeathWorlders held the cards now, and like it or not, the Tholians needed them, badly. As Bobby led them into the mess hall, the tantalizing aroma of sizzling meat and spices filled the air. Janus and Zor-El hesitated, eyeing the strange spread of colorful dishes. But their hunger won out, and they loaded their plates with a sampling of everything. Settling at a table, Bobby grinned as he watched the Tholians take tentative bites. Their eyes widened in surprise, and they quickly began shoveling food into their mouths. "Damn, this is delicious," Zor-El mumbled around a mouthful of succulent steak. "What do you call this dish?" "That, my friend, is a medium-rare ribeye straight from the plains of Texas," Bobby said, slicing into his own steak. "Cattle ranching has been a proud human tradition for centuries. Of course, it wasn't always easy. Ever heard of a cattle stampede?" Janus shook his head, spearing a roasted potato. "I assume it's some sort of bovine charge." "More like a thundering herd of 1,000-pound beasts trampling anything in their path," Bobby laughed. "Back in the old pioneer days, cowboys would risk life and limb to wrangle stampeding cattle. Broken bones, crushed organs, you name it. We had to get real good at fixing up those injuries." Zor-El shuddered, his chitinous plates rattling. "I cannot imagine facing such brutish creatures." "Cattle are nothing compared to some of the other critters we've got on Earth," Bobby said, rolling up his sleeve to reveal a faded scar. "See this? Courtesy of a venomous rattlesnake that snuck into my sleeping bag on a camping trip when I was a kid. If it weren't for the anti-venom and quick thinking of the doctors, I wouldn't be here today." Janus leaned forward, fascinated. What other dangers do humans commonly face? Bobby chuckled, ticking them off on his fingers. Let's see, the poisonous spiders, rabid animals, deadly bacteria, flash floods, wildfires, hurricanes, just to name a few. And that's not even counting all the ways we manage to injure ourselves. Burns, lacerations, blunt force trauma, you name it. Zor-El's mandibles clicked in disbelief. How do your people survive such constant threats? Sheer stubbornness, for one, Bobby grinned. But also centuries of medical advancements. We've developed treatments for everything from snake bites to cancer, powerful antibiotics, precision surgical techniques, targeted radiation. Hell, we're even starting to crack the code on genetic engineering. Janus sat back, his mind reeling. Most of the conditions Bobby described would be a death sentence for a Tholian. Their medical technology was woefully lacking in comparison. But if humans could thrive in such a perilous environment... Your species' resilience is remarkable, Janus said slowly. It's no wonder you've taken to space exploration with such ease. You've adapted to survive hostile conditions. Bobby nodded, spearing a piece of asparagus. It's in our DNA. When your ancestors spend millennia outrunning predators and battling the elements, it breeds a certain toughness, a refusal to give up, no matter the odds. As the conversation continued, a spark of hope ignited in Janus's chest. If anyone could help solve the Tholians' mounting health crisis, it was the humans. Their unparalleled medical expertise might be the key to pulling his species back from the brink of collapse. But broaching such a sensitive topic would require careful diplomacy. Janus caught Zor-El's eye, seeing the same wheels turning behind his aide's faceted gaze. They would need to tread lightly to find a way to ask for aid without bruising their fragile pride. As Janus and Zor-El said their goodbyes and left the mess hall, Janus pulled Bobby aside into a quiet corridor. Bobby could see the Tholian diplomat's faceted eyes darting around nervously, as if checking for eavesdroppers. "Dr. Robertson, I must confide something in you," Janus said in a low voice, his mandibles clicking with anxiety. "For decades, our people have been struggling with a mysterious, debilitating disease that has ravaged our population. Our best scientists and doctors have been unable to find a cure." Bobby frowned, his brow furrowing with concern. "I'm sorry to hear that. What are the symptoms of this disease?" Janus described how it starts with fatigue and muscle weakness, gradually leading to organ failure and death. The Tholian government has kept the epidemic a closely guarded secret to avoid appearing weak to other races. But if we don't find a solution soon, I fear our civilization may collapse. Bobby nodded, his mind already whirring with possibilities. "From what you've described, it sounds like a form of muscular dystrophy. We have several treatments for similar conditions on Earth. I'd need to see some scans and blood samples to be sure, but I think we might be able to help." Janus stared at him, his faceted eyes wide with disbelief. How could humans possibly have a cure for a disease that has baffled Tholian medicine for so long? Bobby smiled, clapping a reassuring hand on the diplomat's shoulder. "We humans have a long history of medical research and collaboration. Scientists and doctors from all over our world share their knowledge and resources to tackle even the most challenging diseases." He continued, his voice taking on a note of pride. "We've also got a few advantages from our DeathWorld heritage. Our immune systems are incredibly robust, and we've developed advanced gene editing techniques to correct genetic disorders. If this disease has a genetic component, we might be able to fix it at the source." Janus stood in stunned silence for a moment, his mind reeling with the implications. Then he grasped Bobby's hand, his chitinous fingers trembling with emotion. "Dr. Robertson, would you be willing to visit Tholia and work with our doctors to find a cure? I know it's a lot to ask, but you may be our only hope." Bobby grinned, his eyes sparkling with excitement. "I'd be honored, Janus. I'm always eager to put my skills to the test and forge new partnerships. Together, we might just usher in a new era of human-Tholian cooperation." As the two shook hands, a pact sealed between their species, Bobby could feel the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. But he'd never been one to back down from a challenge. If anyone could crack this medical mystery, it was a human doctor, forged in the crucible of Earth's unforgiving environment. Janus and Zor-El watched in awe as Bobby immersed himself in the Tholian medical data. The human doctor pored over genetic sequences, biochemical analyses, and patient histories with a fierce intensity, his brow furrowed in concentration. "It's incredible," Zor-El murmured. "He's only been here a few days and he's already made more progress than our entire team has in years." Janus nodded, his faceted eyes glinting with hope. "I knew the humans were advanced, but this is beyond anything I could have imagined." They observed as Bobby conferred with the Tholian researchers, his hands gesturing animatedly as he explained his findings. The Tholian scientists listened intently, their chitinous faces registering shock and amazement. "A rare mitochondrial mutation," Janus marveled. "To think the key to our salvation was hidden in our very cells all along." Zor-El leaned forward eagerly. "And this gene therapy treatment he's proposing, do you think it could really work?" "I don't know," Janus admitted. "It's a radical approach far beyond anything we've attempted before. But if anyone can make it happen, it's the humans." They watched as Bobby addressed the assembled Tholian doctors, his voice ringing with conviction. "I know this is unfamiliar territory for you," he said, "but trust me. This is the kind of cutting-edge medicine we practice on Earth. It's not without risks, but it's the best shot we have at saving your people." Janus felt a thrill of excitement as the Tholian government gave the green light for clinical trials. This was it, the moment of truth. If Bobby's treatment worked, it could mean a new beginning for the Tholian race. As the trials began, Bobby worked tirelessly alongside the Tholian doctors, monitoring patients and refining the treatment protocol. Janus and Zor-El visited the hospital daily, marveling at the humans' dedication and expertise. "Look at him go," Zor-El said, shaking his head in wonder. "He barely sleeps, barely eats. It's like he's running on pure determination." Janus nodded, a smile tugging at his mandibles. "That's the human spirit for you. They never give up, no matter the odds." Days turned into weeks, and slowly but surely the patients began to show signs of improvement. Their muscle strength increased, their organ function stabilized. It was like watching a miracle unfold before their eyes. "I can't believe it," Janus whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "He's actually doing it. He's curing the incurable." Zor-El gripped his friend's arm, his own eyes shining with tears. "This is a turning point for our people, Janus, a new era of hope and prosperity." As they watched Bobby work, his face lined with exhaustion but his eyes bright with purpose, Janus felt a surge of gratitude and admiration for the extraordinary human doctor. "To think, we once looked down on them as primitives," he mused, "but in truth they are the most advanced species we've ever encountered. Their resilience, their ingenuity, their sheer force of will. It's humbling." Zor-El nodded solemnly. "We have much to learn from the humans and much to be thankful for." Together, they stood in the hospital corridor, bearing witness to the dawn of a new age, an age in which Tholians and humans would stand side by side, united in the face of any challenge the universe could throw at them. And at the center of it all was one remarkable man, a healer from the harshest of worlds, who had crossed the stars to bring hope to a dying race. As the gene therapy trials progressed, the Tholian Institute of Medical Research buzzed with newfound energy and hope. Patients who had been on the brink of death were now walking, talking, and even laughing again. It was a miracle, a testament to the power of human ingenuity and compassion. Janus and Zor-El watched with pride as Bobby worked alongside the Tholian doctors, sharing his knowledge and expertise with tireless dedication. The human doctor seemed to be everywhere at once, training staff, refining treatment protocols, and personally overseeing the care of the most critical patients. "He's incredible," Zor-El marveled. "I've never seen anyone work with such focus and determination." Janus nodded, his faceted eyes glinting with admiration. "The humans have a saying, where there's a will, there's a way. Bobby embodies that spirit. He won't rest until he's given our people a fighting chance." As word of the breakthrough spread, Tholians from all corners of the planet began flooding the Institute, desperate for a chance at life. Bobby and the Tholian doctors worked around the clock to scale up production of the gene therapy, determined to meet the overwhelming demand. But just as victory seemed within reach, a new challenge emerged. A faction of Tholian politicians, long opposed to seeking outside help, began sowing seeds of doubt and fear among the populace. They claimed that the human-made gene therapy was a plot to control and manipulate the Tholian people, a Trojan horse designed to undermine their sovereignty. Janus, now a staunch ally of Bobby and a believer in the treatment, tried to counter the propaganda. He gave impassioned speeches, citing the countless lives already saved and the rigorous science behind the therapy. But the damage was done. Many Tholians, scared and confused, began rejecting the treatment even as their condition worsened. Bobby, frustrated and disheartened, confided in Janus one evening as they shared a meal in the Institute's cafeteria. "I don't understand," he said, pushing his food around on his plate. "We're trying to help them, but they'd rather listen to fear-mongering than trust the science." Janus sighed heavily, his chitinous shoulders sagging. "Change is hard for our people, Bobby. We've been isolated and self-reliant for so long that accepting help from outsiders feels like a threat to our identity." "But it's not about pride," Bobby argued, his voice rising with emotion. "It's about saving lives, about giving your people a future. How can they not see that?" Janus reached across the table, placing a comforting hand on Bobby's arm. "They will in time. You've shown us what's possible, Bobby. You've given us hope. It's up to us now to convince our people to embrace it." In the end, despite Bobby's best efforts, a significant portion of the Tholian population refused the treatment. The disease, though no longer a death sentence, continued to afflict many who clung to old prejudices and fears. As Bobby prepared to return to Earth, Janus thanked him for his tireless work and dedication. "You've given us a fighting chance, Bobby. You've shown us what human compassion and ingenuity can do. It's up to us now to convince our people to embrace the future." Bobby, though disappointed by the outcome, took solace in the lives he was able to save and the friendship he had forged with Janus. He returned to Earth with a newfound appreciation for the challenges and complexities of interstellar diplomacy and a determination to continue using his medical skills to bridge the gap between humans and the other races of the galaxy. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.